The laugh came first, sharp and careless, slicing through the warmth of the New Year's dinner like a crack in glass. Ethan Miller felt it before he fully heard it. The sound landed heavy in his chest as conversations paused and eyes shifted toward the long dining table glowing under soft golden lights. Outside, snow drifted past the windows of the suburban Connecticut home. Quiet and perfect, the kind of night meant for fresh starts. Inside, the moment was already going wrong. "Relax," Mark Miller said with an easy grin, lifting his wineglass. "It's New Year's. We're just having fun." Ethan sat at the far end of the table, shoulders stiff, fingers resting near his plate. He didn't look up right away. He already knew where this was going. He had lived this moment in different rooms, different years, different holidays. Mark, his older brother, always had a way of turning the spotlight exactly where he wanted it. So Mark continued, leaning back in his chair. "While the rest of us survived another year of deadlines, promotions, and real responsibilities, Ethan is still chasing. What was it this year?" A few guests laughed, unsure but polite. Someone coughed. Someone else sipped champagne. "Creative freedom," Mark added with a shrug. "That's what he calls it." The word hung in the air, light and mocking. Ethan forced a small smile, the kind learned over years of practice. He stared at the tablecloth, white and perfectly ironed, trying to keep his breathing even. His mind raced, searching for something clever to say, something sharp enough to defend himself without starting a fight. Nothing came. Their mother shifted. In her seat, "Mark," she said gently, "that's enough." "I'm not attacking him," Mark replied quickly. "I'm proud of him. I just wish he'd settle down already. Get something stable, something real." Real. Ethan finally looked up. Across the table, Mark sat relaxed, confident, wearing success like a tailored jacket. Good job. Nice house, clear path. Everything Ethan was constantly reminded he lacked. The dining room fell quiet, the way it does when a joke goes too far but no one wants to say it out loud. That's when Ethan noticed Claire. She sat a few seats down, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She hadn't laughed. Her eyes were fixed on Ethan, not with pity, but concern. Claire Thompson wasn't loud or dramatic. She had married into the family recently, and Ethan still didn't know much about her. But in that moment, her silence felt louder than Mark's words. Ethan looked away. Dinner moved on, because it always did. Plates were passed, food was praised. The clock ticked closer to midnight. The moment faded for everyone else, but it stayed with Ethan, pressing on him like, "Wait." He listened to conversations blur together. Stock markets, vacation plans, office, drama. Every topic seemed to remind him that he was different, that he didn't fit the mold this family quietly valued. When the dishes were cleared and people moved into the living room, Ethan lingered behind. He stood near the doorway, watching his reflection in the darkened window. 35 years old, freelance designer. No title anyone recognized. No clear explanation that satisfied people like Mark. "Hey," he turned. Claire stood there, holding 2 champagne flutes. "I thought you might want one," she said, offering a glass. "Thanks," he replied, taking it. They stood side by side, the noise of the room washing over them. "I'm sorry about earlier," she said quietly. Ethan gave a small shrug. "It's fine." She looked at him, studying his face. It didn't sound fine. He hesitated, then sighed. "Guess I'm just tired of being the joke." He looked at her again, surprised by her honesty. "Yeah," he admitted. She nodded slowly. "For what it's worth, I don't think what you do is small." Her words landed gently, unexpected but real. "Most people never even try," she added. "They just choose safe and call it success." Before Ethan could respond, someone turned up the TV volume. The New Year's countdown graphic filled the screen. Cheers erupted. Glasses clinked. Mark clapped his hands. All right, toasts before midnight. A few people groaned. Others laughed. Mark stood first, naturally. He raised his glass, voice smooth and practiced. To another year of winning, he said. To ambition. To pushing forward and not settling for less. The room applauded. Ethan felt something shift inside him. A tightness. A decision forming. He hadn't planned to speak. He never planned to speak. But something about that word. Settling sparked a quiet anger he could no longer swallow. Their mother glanced toward him. Ethan, she said gently, would you like to say something? Every head turned. The room went still. Ethan stood. The world seemed to narrow to the glass in his hand, the soft hum of the heater, the distant sound of wind against the house. His heart pounded, but his voice surprised him by staying steady. I didn't plan a toast, he said. A tie. But I'll say this. People leaned in. This year wasn't easy for me. Ethan continued. I questioned myself more times than I can count. I wondered if I was failing because my life didn't look impressive from the outside. Mark's smile faded slightly, but I learned something, Ethan said. Success isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with titles or applause. Sometimes it looks like waking up every day and choosing not to quit. The room was silent now. I'm grateful for the people who see effort, not just outcomes, he added. And for those who understand that different paths don't mean lesser ones. His eyes met Claire's for a brief moment. She smiled softly. And this year, Ethan finished, I hope we learn to lift each other up instead of tearing each other down, even as a joke. He raised his glass. No one spoke. At first, then Claire lifted hers. To lifting each other up, she said. One by one, others followed. Glasses clinked. The tension eased, but something had changed. Mark nodded once, his expression unreadable. The countdown resumed. 10, 9, 8. Ethan sat back down, his pulse still racing. Fireworks exploded. On the screen as midnight arrived, cheers filled the room. Hugs were exchanged. But Ethan barely noticed. For the first time in years, he didn't feel small. As the celebration continued, his phone vibrated quietly in his pocket. A message appeared on the screen. Really glad you spoke up tonight. He looked up and caught Claire watching him from across the room. And in that moment, Ethan felt it clearly. That toast wasn't just words. It was the beginning of something he never expected. The message changed everything before the snow on the driveway had time to melt. Ethan read it again while sitting in his car, the engine still running, the New Year's fireworks echoing faintly in the distance. The house behind him glowed with leftover celebration, but something new had already pulled him forward. I'm really glad you spoke up tonight. He looked back once, then drove away. The next morning arrived cold and bright, the kind of winter morning that feels honest. Ethan woke with a strange sense of calm. The usual weight in his chest was lighter. He made coffee, opened his laptop, and answered emails he had been putting off. For the first time in a long while, he felt focused instead of defensive. That afternoon, his phone buzzed again. Coffee sometime this week. No pressure. It was Claire. Ethan smiled and typed yes before doubt could talk him out of it. They met at a small cafe near the river, the kind with fogged windows and soft music playing in the background. Claire arrived first, already seated, hands wrapped around a mug. When she looked up and saw Ethan, her smile was easy and real. They talked without effort, about work, about how strange families could be, about dreams that felt too big to say out loud at dinner tables. Ethan found himself speaking freely, without the need to explain or defend. Claire listened closely, asking thoughtful questions, never rushing him. When they stood to leave, neither of them hurried. That coffee turned into another. Then a walk through the park, snow crunching beneath their boots. Then late-night texts about nothing and everything. There was no drama, no rush, just a quiet pull that felt steady and safe. Weeks passed. Winter softened. Ethan's work began to shift too. A design project he'd poured himself into finally caught attention online. Not viral fame, not overnight success, but steady interest. New clients reached out. His calendar slowly filled. He didn't announce it to anyone. He just kept going. At the next family gathering, the air felt different. Mark noticed first. Ethan arrived, confident, not loud, not trying to prove anything. He spoke when he wanted. He laughed easily. Claire stood near him, comfortable. Her presence calm but undeniable. Mark watched from across the room, confusion crossing his face. Later that evening, Mark stepped outside where Ethan stood alone looking at the dark sky. "You seem different," Mark said. Ethan nodded. "I feel different." Mark hesitated. The usual confidence in his voice was gone. "I didn't realize my jokes hit that hard." Ethan looked at him, steady and calm. "I didn't either, until I stopped believing them." Silence sat between them, heavy but honest. "I'm trying to do better," Mark said finally. Ethan accepted the words for what they were. A start. Spring arrived quietly. Ethan and Claire didn't label anything at first. They didn't need to. They learned each other slowly. Shared meals, long talks, comfortable silence. They built something real without forcing it. One evening, sitting across from Claire in a quiet restaurant, Ethan realized something had shifted inside him. He wasn't chasing approval anymore. He wasn't shrinking to fit anyone's expectations. He was simply himself. Claire noticed. She always did. "You seem lighter," she said. "I finally stopped caring other people's opinions," he replied. She smiled. "That suits you." As the year moved forward, Ethan stood taller, not because life had suddenly become perfect, but because he trusted his path. The mockery that once defined him had lost its power. All it took was one honest toast, and the courage to keep going after it.